Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Los Alamitos Unified School District Board meeting for June the 25th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And our first order of business is roll call.
Mrs. Catulli?
Here.
Mr. Forehand?
Here.
Mrs. Hill?
Here.
Okay. Our next order is our Pledge of Allegiance, and Mrs. Hill will lead us in it.
It'd be an honor.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This is the time in the agenda where we have public comments on agenda. Oh, we have to adopt the agenda first before we can move on. Okay, are there any changes or additions to the agenda, or do I have a motion to accept it as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Now we're at the public comments on agenda or non-agendized items, and we have no comments cards, so we're going to go right into our presentations. Our first one is our facility and new gymnasium update. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. It gives me great honor to call Mr. C.J. Nolan to the podium. I think we've given him enough of a break, and it's been a while since he's presented and provided a facilities update. So he's here today to provide the board with an update on everything that's happening at our school sites.
Good evening, Madam President, honorable members of the board. Sorry. Presentations come up fast in the summer board meetings on the agenda. So thank you guys for bearing with me as I give you everybody a facilities project update. We are on our third week of a busy summer. So starting off with our facilities projects, our first and largest project we have right now is our new 3-court gymnasium at the high school. As you are all aware, our construction started on January 2nd. And we are currently forming and erecting the tilt-up walls. So we've completed the building foundations, which included all the soil remediation. I believe in the last presentation I gave at the Operations Steering Committee, I highlighted some videos and pictures that really showed the soils conditions that we were trying to remediate during this project. So in the last 2 weeks, we have finished up our soils remediation work, and we have poured our building slab and our building's footings. Just to show everyone the work that we've done over the last couple weeks, we have a time lapse. A lot of dirt moving because we really had to stiffen up the dirt and the foundation for the building because there was such a high moisture content in the soil. So you could see there that they're digging the footings on the perimeter, and that was the building slab that was right in the center of the 3 courts.
If we don't, I think it'd be great to put that on our website or something, because I just think that's so, I know the public's really interested in it. And I think that's
Yeah, absolutely. My goal was to get the walls going up so we have like a more complete time lapse, but we have it ongoing for the entire project, so no problem.
CJ, and I was wondering, because due to the fact that we had so much soil remediation that we needed to do, and I know you've been working really hard with our groups that are building it, has this slowed us down significantly?
Well, it does slow us down. So we did have to take several extra steps and several extra days, if not weeks, to remediate the soil. The good thing is hitting a delay like that in the beginning of a project is much more recoverable than if you're hitting it at the end of a project.
Yeah.
And working with a contractor like Erickson Hall, we've been spending the last several weeks really remediating the schedule, squeezing construction activities where we can, and lagging certain activities where we can. Right now, we don't have a date finalized, or we don't have a amount of days finalized that we are delayed, but we are looking probably around 2 weeks right now, but we're fairly confident that by the end of September, we'll be all the way caught up to where our original schedule was.
Yeah, 2 weeks really for this, this large of a project really isn't that bad considering what had to be done. And as you know, in construction, you can have good surprises and not good surprises. So it's a movable feast. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so during the soils remediation process, we had our soils engineer on site almost every other day. So they were very responsive, and we were able to quickly get the answers that the contractor needed to move forward. So,
Thank you.
as I was saying with the concrete pours, with such a large building slab for the gymnasium, the building slab covers the full 3 courts. So in order to pour that much concrete, a lot of times we have to start in the early morning hours before it gets too hot, especially on days like today. And in this picture, you could see that that was one of our early morning concrete pours that started, I believe, around 3:30. So when we do those type of concrete pours, we typically will notify all the neighbors around the area so that they are at least aware. But other than the notification, there isn't much we can do because we're kind of locked into the temperature and the time frame to get it done. So yeah, as I was saying, all of our soils remediation work is completed. We're currently finalizing those costs and schedule impacts with Erickson Hall. The cost was somewhat significant, but it is still within our contingency amount, and we have some contingency left over for the remainder of the project as well. The schedule impacts, like I was saying, I believe by the end of September, we'll be caught up with our original schedule. So we are, our original schedule had us finishing the erection of the perimeter walls on July 19th. And I believe right now we have it scheduled to start our first erection of the set of wall panels on July 8th. So we might be a week or so behind on that erection, but I think that at the end of September, we will be fully caught up.
Great.
And then right adjacent, this might be a little bit more of a grainy video because I tried to multi-purpose our time lapse from our gymnasium camera and try to capture our synthetic turf replacement. But as you can see, the turf comes right up and then the new turf is laid down right after it. So here's a clear picture of the new turf. This is another project that started immediately at the start of summer. All of our materials are on site and the new turf is being installed now. Following the installation of the new turf, we'll be resurfacing the track, and the project is scheduled to complete on July 28th. Moving on, at Los Alamitos High School, our classroom renovations and roof replacement projects. I left our little map on the right-hand side, which is somewhat of our master plan for our classroom renovations. Right now, we are on the phase that's in yellow. So our classroom renovations and roof replacement projects have begun. The classroom renovations primarily consist in building 600, with the first floor of the 750s building, which is the round building, and the 800s building. Our roofing projects consist of building 150, building 600, the PAC, and building 800. As far as the renovations go, our demolition is near complete in all of our classrooms, and we were able to coordinate with our contractor to order our finished materials and make sure they will all be delivered in time. So we actually had our whiteboards and our tack wall delivered today, so we are in really good shape in terms of material. And here are some pictures of our classrooms after the demolition. So you can see all our ceiling tiles are out, our flooring is up, and the walls are bare. In the left-hand picture, it's one of our art classrooms, and on the right-hand picture is one of our computer lab classrooms that are located in the lower floor of the 750 building, or the round building. And if you can see in that picture on the right-hand side, in that picture, there's 3 little pedestals. That is actually where the power and the data is coming up through the floor. And we're going to have linear tables for the computer labs in those 2 classrooms. And just to expand on that a little bit further, here's the layout on the right-hand side, where you would have those 4 pedestals in the center of each of those rows of computer tables. And the big thing in these classrooms is we are reorienting the rooms. On the largest wall, or the radiused wall on the top of the image on the right, that was previously the back of the classroom, with the smallest wall on the bottom being the front. So we wanted to really 180 these classrooms where we can have our teaching wall on the largest surface and provide our teachers more space and really get more eyes towards the front of the room. In order to do that, we furred out, it's called furring out the radius wall. So it creates a flat surface, and we will be installing a 12-foot marker board with a short throw projector in the front. It means there's a faux wall, I would say, in front of the curved wall. So on the back of those walls, there's also quite a bit of utilities and plumbing and other things too, that the furred out wall helps hide those utilities and pipes and other things that aren't too aesthetically pleasing. And so for the round building on the first floor, there was originally 3 computer labs located in this building. Right now, we are repurposing one of those computer labs to serve as a lab space for our robotics, our hydrogen cars, and other STEM lab working groups. Really, for this room, what they need is a large open space. And these rooms, especially when you don't have the computer tables in there, are relatively large. So we have worked with our site administrators and our robotics staff to implement and see what equipment they need over there, and we're trying to make those adjustments now. For the other 2 computer labs, we have ordered the furniture, and we will be restoring those back to computer labs. Other projects we have going on at the Performing Arts Center. So we have held a working group meeting with our theater, or our Performing Arts Center consultant, who specializes in theaters, which is all the rigging, the lighting, the sound, everything that is important to our groups that use the Performing Arts Center at the high school. One of the first projects that was identified and prioritized for the Performing Arts Center was the replacement of the stage floor. And as I was saying earlier, we are replacing the roof of the Performing Arts Center right now this summer as well. So in order to maximize our efficiency while we close the Performing Arts Center to replace the roof, we sped up the bidding process for the replacement of the floor, and that's scheduled to start in the next 2 weeks as well. So we're trying to get as much done with the single closure as possible.
Yeah. CT, I'm under the impression that a stage floor is different than a regular wooden floor, that it has like more give on it, almost like a dancer's floor. Is that a proper supposition?
That's pretty close.
Okay.
So yeah, it essentially has a masonite topping. So we're not going to rebuild the entire structure. We're just going to be rebuilding the top level of the surface of the floor. Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
So with those meetings with our user groups, we've also identified some additional items that we are going to be looking to implement over at the PAC. And with those items, we have some constraints with DSA where we will be holding a pre-application meeting just to ensure compliance, because this is one of our older buildings. And if we're adding weight to the building or adding anything structural, we need to make sure that it's properly reviewed and approved. So I kind of have the improvements on the right-hand side listed in 2 categories. The first category would be the items that do not require a DSA review. And those would be the new dimmable house lights over the seating area, the stage lighting, which is it's called a DMX data distribution, the upgraded power circuitry for this over the stage, and the replacement of the overstage work lights. So we are allowed to replace in kind without having to go back to DSA. But when we're upgrading some of our speakers and some of our lighting equipment to something much more robust and heavy, that's where it becomes somewhat of a gray area, and that's why we want to hold that pre-application meeting with DSA. And those items would include the room acoustics, which could be the curtains. They can include wall panels and other items that will acoustically better the sound in the Performing Arts Center. The motorized stage light rigging over the audience, the new and upgraded audio-visual equipment, the new or refurbished seating, and additional restrooms at the exterior wings of the Performing Arts Center. So some of these items, we've reached out to several different design teams, architects, inspectors. It's like, for example, the refurbished seating or the new seating, we've heard opinions both ways. And that's why it's just really important to have that pre-application meeting with DSA so we get some clarification on exactly what their expectations are for us.
CJ? So, and I think you answered this question before, maybe, I think it's been answered before, but it might not just be finalized. We're still going to have to keep the restrooms in the PAC because we can't take them out because of DSA, but we're going to add additional ones. Is that correct?
Correct. So the existing restrooms in the Performing Arts Center are really, they're really confined to the space that they have. And once we take a project like that to DSA, we're going to have to upgrade those restrooms in terms of accessibility. And by doing that, it's most likely going to turn those into single occupancy restrooms, which is which is why we're hesitant just to submit a project to DSA, and also why we want to have a pre-application meeting so we know ahead of time what they're going to require out of us before we're committed.
So, but there's no way of just gutting those and opening, because to me, often the lobby feels really confined. There's a lot of people coming in and out, and that, I don't know, that space.
We are really constrained to the building in that aspect, where it is a concrete building and it's not very modifiable in that sense. But what we do have on either side of the Performing Arts Center are those two open courtyard areas.
Right.
And there's also doors at the front of the seating, the audience area, where ideally we want to get a design team so we could design restrooms that would be able to serve out those doors and on either side. That is kind of our plan right now, to where we don't have to modify the existing structure and we could still add restrooms that will be able to serve attendees.
Right. Thank you, CJ.
And of course, it'll all be dependent upon cost as well, and remaining dollars for facilities projects.
And another project we have going on over at the high school are our staff restrooms at the STEM building. So at the high school, overall, we are looking at all of our restrooms, but this project became a priority where we have a need for additional staff restrooms, and we have two storage closets, one on the second floor and one on the third floor, and they're each located in the teacher's lounge or the PLC rooms. And we are going to be modifying those storage closets to create one additional single occupancy restroom on the second floor and another additional single occupancy restroom on the third floor. In addition to that, we have a single occupancy restroom on the first floor near the lobby, where we are going to be reorienting the door so that it's not facing the front of the lobby. It will just provide a little bit more privacy for our staff that's working right there, and for whoever's using the restroom as well. So this project right now is currently under review with DSA. They're taking a little bit longer than we originally anticipated. So we actually have started the bidding process for this project this week with anticipation that we'll have DSA approval prior to awarding the contract in the August board meeting. So the tentative project schedule. So for this project is really, it focuses on staff restrooms and non-student areas. We've really been on a fastest possible schedule for this. And with that being said, with our bidding process, we're scheduled to have it presented at the August 6th board meeting, and a construction schedule of 8 to 12 weeks. And that 8 to 12 weeks is really going to be dependent on access and materials. So the high school will be occupied and we'll have staff there. So we're going to be having to work around some of those things. So that's why there's more of a longer, I would say, time schedule for this project. And some of our remaining projects, one of the ones we just started this week was our fence relocation and additional emergency exit gate near the 400s building. If you look at the layout on the right-hand side, you can see the sidewalk that is on the bottom left of the right picture, and then it's in the left picture. So that is an additional egress gate for emergency use or just if students or staff need to exit the campus. And then we're also repositioning that fence on the upper right-hand corner to provide more grass space internal to the campus. And at some of our other sites, our additional facilities projects ongoing. We have our CalShape AB 841 HVAC assessments. We just submitted our final assessment reports to the state. With that project, it's in order to secure grant funding. And we've done a lot of things like our Pelican thermostats and other HVAC improvements have been dependent on these assessments that we're submitting now. In addition, we have the Oak Middle School Gymnasium floor replacement, and that is on the board agenda for this evening. That project schedule is 12 weeks. Now that schedule is really about the material lead time once the contract is awarded and the climatization once the floor is installed. So there's the installation is most likely only to take 6, maybe 8 weeks. But there's also a several week period where the floor has to climatize to the building, and then the lead time is often another 4 to maybe 6 weeks as well. And we will be working and coordinating with the city of Los Alamitos for that project. We've had several meetings with them, and we're in contact with them in terms of the schedule so that we are able to accommodate their needs for the gymnasium as well.
So that's not going to be this summer.
No, it will be starting this summer, but it's going to bleed into the school year a little bit.
Yeah.
And the same goes for the McGaw Elementary School gymnasium, clear story window and roof replacement. This has been an issue, I would say, for about the last year or so. Since it started raining heavy over the last 2 years, it's really become apparent that the clear story window system on the gymnasium is allowing water in, and the roof hasn't been replaced in, I believe, over 20 years. So we recently bid that project out, and that is also on the board agenda this evening for award as well. That schedule is approximately 6 weeks. And the same with that project, we'll be coordinating with the city of Seal Beach. And with that, that is all of the projects we have on this busy summer.
And I don't know why we never wait to the end to ask our questions, but thank you for.
No problem.
Inquiring minds. I want to say thank you. I think it's really important for you to present this at this time of the school year, because a lot of people think, no, we don't really do much during the summer. Your department is, working at 150% during the summer, trying to get everything taken care of not only for the safety and the benefit of our students and staff, but just because it's so much easier when you don't have hundreds of people walking around your construction area. So, yeah, I know you always have an incredibly busy summer, and I appreciate all the effort and planning and how you stay on top of everything. So thank you so much, CJ.
Not a problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
that's it. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, and our next item is the presentation of our California dashboard LCAP indicators. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, President Catuli. Well, we have a new requirement this school year, and so the state is now requiring us not to only bring forward our LCAP, but to also annually present our local indicators that are on our dashboard to the Board of Education. And so I'm very fortunate that Mrs. Davis, our Director of Education Services, is very much on top of this, and so has put together a really short presentation to inform the board of our current state of where we fall on those indicators and the 8 priorities.
Thank you. Good evening, President Catuli, members of the board, Dr. Pulver, cabinet, and community. It's my pleasure to present tonight the LCFF local performance indicators. So as Mrs. Reed said, this is a new requirement. Later on tonight on the agenda are the local indicators for you to approve the full document, but we are required to annually measure our progress in meeting the requirements of the specific LCFF priorities. To do this, we use the self-reflection tool the state puts out, and then once the board approves the report that we complete through that self-reflection tool, then we upload them to the California dashboard by the end of July every year. And so when you go to the dashboard, when it becomes public in the fall, you'll see all of our different metrics, but you'll also see on there whether we met or did not meet the different performance indicators. So the performance indicators that we are required to self-report on is priority 1, which are the basic services and conditions, priority 2, the implementation of state academic standards, priority 3, parent and family engagement, priority 6, school climate, and priority 7, access to a broad course of study. And so if you remember from the LCAP, there's 8 state priorities. These are 5 of those 8 that we report on. And so the first one are the basic services and conditions that as a district, we annually measure our progress in meeting the Williams settlement requirements at 100% of our school sites, and we promptly address all complaints and other deficiencies identified throughout the academic year. So it's basically making sure that we have appropriately assigned teachers, access to curriculum-aligned instructional materials, and then a safe, clean, and functional school facilities. And so you can see there that we have met that portion based off of the self-reflection tool for priority 1. For priority 2, the implementation of state academic standards. This is measuring that we are implementing our academic standards by looking at the professional learning that's offered, making sure our instructional materials are aligned to the standards, and areas to support students and staff. And we have met priority 2 as well. Priority 3 is our parent and family engagement. So we're just measuring that we are engaging our parents and our families and building relationships between staff and families and building partnerships for student outcomes, and that we include them in our decision making. And so this is all, we've also met this standard or this priority for priority 3. Priority 6, school climate. This is our annual climate survey that we send out for our California Healthy Kids survey, our parent engagement survey that we use for the LCAP, as well as our 5th grade survey that we administer internally. It captures a measure basically of student perceptions on school safety and connectedness, and I am happy to report that we have met that priority as well. And priority 7, access to a broad course of study. This is measuring progress in the extent to which students have access to or enrolled in a broad course of study. And so we have also met the priority 7 priority. And with that, are there any questions?
No.
Thank you. The full report is on the board later on tonight, and it has all the metrics that we go through within each one. But we'll report that once it's approved and upload it to the dashboard for public preview in the fall.
Okay. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I think it shows just how focused everyone in LaSalle is on the success of our students. So, but thank you for having this for us.
Thank you.
Quick question. Do you know if that's one of the things that, I don't know if we have any metrics that show when parents are looking at our district, if that's something that that they click on and look at or are able to understand. To me, it's clear, but I've been listening to it for a long time. So
Yeah, and it is a metric. So the dashboard is kind of what California created, so you can look equally at all districts if you were to compare with all of your CASP data. So in addition to CASP data, chronic absenteeism, all those different areas that we are annually reported on the dashboard, at the very bottom, it'll have all of the priorities listed, and it'll show if a district has met or not met. And then there's also a status for not met for 1 or more years or 2 or more years. And so all of that is displayed for everyone to see.
that's awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're now going to go on to our consent calendar. It is actually pretty long, and I just would like to make a comment before we address it, that at this time of the school year, we are very busily preparing for our next school year. Even though it is summer, we have to prepare for the next coming up school year, and we have renewals and annual contracts that we get every year, so they're on our consent calendar. So that being said, do I have any pulls on the consent calendar? I have no pulls, so I need a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, which is 4A through 4AM.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We are now on to our action items, and the first is a approval of a textbook. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, President Gachuli. Tonight we're bringing forward Wonders, which is a transitional kindergarten curriculum that our teachers piloted earlier this school year and unanimously recommended for adoption. So it will begin its 30-day public preview after tonight's meeting, and it's a comprehensive TK curriculum that is standards aligned.
Okay, so this is for approval. Yeah, okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Yay, little TKers.
I know, I mean, yeah, the little ones. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Then we have approval to submit our consolidated application spring release for categorical programs. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, President Gachuli. So annually, we submit our CONAP, which indicates to the state our intent to participate in certain state and federal programs and the aid that we would receive through participating. So we're bringing that forward for action this evening.
Yes, and I just want to say that I know that we apply for every categorical program that we possibly could get. Is that correct?
That is typically the case.
Unfortunately, we don't get that many. So may I have approval for 5B?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Now we're on to the approval of the annual report about Proposition 28, which is the arts and music funding. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. This is our brand new and first annual report under Prop 28. As you recall, this is a new funding for 23-24. What this annual report is just making sure that the district is using 80% of these funds for staffing, teachers, and classified staff. We are not using it this year for staff. As you recall, when Mrs. Reed presented, we submitted for a waiver for 23-24. We only allocated 18% of those funds to site. And so this report just lets the state know that we only used 18% and what school sites used the funds in this particular year. So obviously next year, it will probably be more in detail as we continue to implement the program.
Okay. I appreciate the report when I was looking at it. And I know that it has taken a lot of planning even to only use 18% of the funds and how we're going to expand our arts program. And I appreciate thoughtfulness and research and building a community to get behind it. So I appreciate the effort that went into it. Okay. May I have a motion, please?
I'll also move.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Now we have the approval of our LCAP. Mrs. Reed.
Thank you so much, President Gachuli. So as Mrs. Davis just explained tonight, we're bringing forward our local control and accountability performance indicators report that will be submitted after board approval.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
A second.
Is there any comment? I would just like again to thank Mrs. Davis because it's a lot of work and there is community engagement in it, and I just appreciate the amount of forms she has to fill out and keep track of. So thank you so much. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. We're now on to the acceptance of bid 2324-10 and approval of the agreement with Building Electronic Controls for our district-wide fire alarm service repair, testing, and monitoring. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. We are bringing forward the lowest responsible bidder, which was the Electronic Controls Incorporated, for these services in next year.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
A second.
Okay, I appreciate keeping everyone safe. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Now we're on to acceptance of bid 2324-12 and approval of the agreement with AME Builders for the gymnasium floor and the windows at McGaw Elementary School, as we just heard about from CJ. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. As Mr. Nolan indicated, this is the lowest responsible bidder for the project at McGaw Elementary School.
Okay, great. May I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Now we have acceptance of bid 2324-13 for the approval with McWill Sports Services for the gymnasium floor at Oak Middle School. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. McGill was the lowest responsible bidder as we went out to bid for the Oak Gymnasium that Mr. Nolan presented earlier.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Just so this is replacement, not resurfacing?
Correct.
Correct.
The
Okay.
replacement.
And so, because we try to resurface almost every year, but they only have so much of a life.
That is
correct.
correct.
Okay.
This
Get down to the nails.
Oh, and this one has water damage.
water damage. Correct.
Okay. So hopefully we've replaced a roof too.
The water came in from the ground
Really?
up. Correct.
Oh, that water table thing just rises up again.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Okay, now we're on to the resolution for the Board of Education designating our certain general funds as committed fund balances. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. As we're getting closer to closing the fiscal year for 23-24, the requirement to have a 10% reserve in our general fund and Fund 17 still applies for the fiscal year 23-24. We aren't anticipating to have more than 10%, but this is just in case. Once we do close the fiscal year and our fund balance does exceed the 10%, we are reserving or committing those funds primarily because as we are projecting a decline in 24-25 in revenues, we will have those funds to use and commit them for that purpose due to the reduction in revenues in the 24-25 fiscal year.
May I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion? I appreciate Mrs. Galicia and her department keeping on top of our finances and making sure, because you never know what the future holds, that if something untoward happens, that we are still able to do things like make payroll. That's important. Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand. Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 3-0. We are now on to resolution by the Board of Education regarding temporary interfund transfers from the general fund. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, as we're getting ready to close the fiscal year, this is an annual resolution we bring forward to allow us to move interfund transfers in case we need it. We haven't had the need, but just in case.
Right. May I have a motion?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Again, this one is annual and we haven't ever used it, so hopefully we won't. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It's a roll call. I'm sorry.
Oh, roll call, I'm sorry.
Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand. Mrs. Hill.
Aye.
Okay, and here we have the adoption of our budget. Mrs. Galicia.
Thank you, Madam President. We have no changes from our last presentation that we presented on June 11th, so therefore we are requesting approval of the 24-25 annual budget.
Okay, great. May I have a motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I just found two things I find interesting. That one we don't have to have a roll call on, which seems kind of odd since it's the biggest thing we do. And that I just did get this regarding the local control funding formula, and it's been 10 years, and that was just incredible to me. And even though I know that our district, once again, doesn't typically benefit, I do remember that this is a lot more consistent in the sense of funding. And so I am appreciative of that. And there was some information in here that said that it did increase, that it has been a positive positive move forward. So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's important. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, all those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Okay, we're on adoption of our resolution 2324-29 for the education protection account for our fiscal year 24-25 next school year. Mrs. Galicia, I'm glad you're good with numbers.
Thank you, Madam President. This EPA resolution comes hand in hand with our annual budget. We bring it forward every year, and really what it is part of property taxes, part of Proposition 30, which was passed in 2012, and we have to use those funds that are assigned to EPA, Education Protection, specifically for teacher salaries. So the resolution is to attest that we are using it specifically for teacher salaries and not administration.
Okay. May I have a motion? So moved. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Cattouli.
Aye.
Mr. Forehand. Mrs. Hill.
Okay, we're on now to the approval of warrants. The warrants is basically the district's checkbook. May I have an approval of, and we do read them, may I have approval for the warrants as presented? Okay, any discussion? All those.
Just a reminder that we get an opportunity to ask questions on all of them. And just as a reminder, we get the opportunity to ask a question about anything and always get really quick response. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we do. And it is shared with the entire board, not just the person who made the questions. And it's interesting to me how sometimes it's the same warrant several people will ask us, what is this? It is always legitimate, though. Okay, may I? We have a motion and a second. No more discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. Now we're on to acceptance of donations. And Mrs. Galicia, I just want to make sure this is the last acceptance of donation for this fiscal year. Is this correct? Okay. And this current donations, we do have, a lot of our PTAs and support groups at the school sites, and we got another $51,000. But the year-to-date total is the total for this past school year of $1.192 million. I don't know of another community of our size that is this supportive and this generous to all of the students. So it really moves me, and I just really want to thank our entire community and your dedication and support of the success for our kids. Just thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I need a motion to accept this.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We're now on to adoption of some more retirement resolutions that have come forward. Dr. Weiss-Wright, would you like to speak to it, please?
Yeah, thanks, Madam President. It's very bittersweet, but to recognize 4 additional retirees that Dr. Pulver did highlight in his presentation at our last board meeting. But this is the last of them for this school year, and so we are presenting 4 additional retirement resolutions tonight for adoption.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 3-0. We're now on to our classified, certificated, and administrative personnel report. Dr. Weiss-Wright?
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, the 3 personnel reports reflect the changes since our last board meeting, and we recommend approval as submitted.
Okay, I would like to consider a motion for OP and Q all at once, 5 OP and Q, if that's all right with the rest of the board.
I so move.
Oh, okay, is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 3-0. We're now to acknowledge the receipt of a claim dated June 17th, 2024, submitted on behalf of RS, and we reject the claim in compliance with Government Code Section 911-15 and 945. Do we vote on that? Okay, so. I'm sorry? Oh, Mrs. Galicia, it said MC, and that's all I can really say to this particular. Yeah, I know why we're doing it, but yeah. Okay.
I can just speak about it. So this is a claim we received last week, and we are requesting rejection, acknowledged to receive and rejected at this time, so our attorneys can move forward with.
Yes, okay. Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll second.
Okay, any, I forgot to ask for discussion. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries 3-0. Okay, the only other little thing that I would like to say, because we're about ready to go into closed session, is that our next meeting won't be until August 6th. We are dark the month of July, so you won't be able to watch us on YouTube or come or anything. But our next meeting will be on the 6th of August, and it will be starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And other than that, thank you so much. We will be going into closed session right now.